to the
Hi, everybody, and thanks for joining. I'm Jennifer Cassinson with Buildxact, and I'm going to wait to introduce our speaker today until the room fills up a little bit more. Thanks for joining. Take your seat, get comfortable, grab your popcorn. We've got Josh coming up, but I'm going to wait until just a few minutes to get started. While I'm waiting, maybe, as you come in, maybe if you could put in the chat what your favorite home technology is, something that you just put in your own home. I have several. I kind of geek out on it, but know very little about it. So I'm excited for the presentation today. So thanks for joining us. I'm going to give it just another minute for us to get started. Okay, I'm not going to punish anybody who's on time, and thank you for joining us today. Again, I'm Jennifer Cassinson, the Vice President of Ambassador and Industry Partner Program at Buildxact, and we have a special guest here today, Josh Christian, and he has been tracking home technology for a number of years, has a very generous history with it, and hopefully Josh will share quite a bit about that today. But you co-founded the Home Technology Association about 6 years ago. Was that correct?
Yep.
And so he is trying to help you guys as an audience to connect to the top home technology installation firms. So trying to get you guys what you need as your consumers, your home buyers, your homeowners are demanding more technology in their spaces. And technology can serve so many different purposes. So let's sit back and listen. Josh, thanks again for joining us today. And before you start, I'm going to ask you the same question. What's your favorite home technology?
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a hard one. I'd say the one I use the most is my lighting control system. I have the lighting that changes with circadian rhythm, and I love that. So right now I have a very daylight, bright, whitish blue light, and by tonight it'll be nice, like golden hour light later in the day. I love that.
Very good. We have one response in the chat, which is the Nest camera system.
Very popular.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks, Josh. Thanks again for being here. I'm honored to have you present to our audience, and I will let you take it away.
All right. Well, thank you. Thanks for coming, people, to this presentation, and a big thank you to Jennifer for inviting me to present to you. I really love doing this. It's one of the best parts of my job is to interact and teach builders, interior designers, architects. I know the pain points that you deal with often on projects. So why am I qualified to even talk to you about this? So just to give you a little background on myself. I've been in this industry since 1995 as a home technology integrator, and we'll get into what that means a little later if you haven't heard that exact term before. And so serving clients, working on custom homes, new construction projects, remodels. So in the trenches, working with you folks, out there in the field and seeing how things go. So I did that for many years, and also I served as a little stint as a technology consultant, which was an interesting thing, where we were like an owner's rep, if you will. We would work for a firm that we would design the technology, specify technology, but we wouldn't install it. We would put together design, and then companies would bid on it and then put it in a home. So I learned also some extra insights from builders and architects and designers during that stint. So always learning and listening from you, trying to address pain points that you deal with. And now in my position as co-founding the Home Technology Association, could do something about it. So we have some influence in the industry, and it's really, really good. So what do I do now? I'll let you know what the Home Technology Association is in a moment. I'll have a little slide. I'll start my little slide deck. I a member of many organizations like NAHB and NARI and NKBA, the IDS, Interior Design Society, and AIBD, American Institute of Building Designers. So I am involved with those associations, again, teaching, but also listening and hearing feedback, and then learning from that, and then coming up with tools in ways to make you have a better time working with technology. I want to be the easy button. And that's what our takeaway is today. So I'll start my slides now. And I believe you're seeing the screen. And so here's a little bit about me. So who is the Home Technology Association? I'll get into this a little bit later, but just to kind of give you the elevator pitch of this, it is a consumer-facing standard. And the reason I have all these other logos up on the screen, these are things I'm sure heard of. They are standards out there in other trades. Michelin stars for restaurants, board certified physicians, a 5-star safety rating for a car, a GI rating for a diamond. These are all standards of safety or performance or excellence. And the industry that installs technology in homes did not have that until we created it back in 2017. And we'll get into why that was really needed later, but that's just what this is. And my experience, again, and I'm not the inventor of this, I'm a co-founder, but a lot of smart people in the home technology industry came together to build this association. So you and your clients have reputable, qualified technology installers that can come out and do all this work we're going to talk about today, but do it well and respect the needs that you have on projects as well. So that's just a little pitch about us. We'll get into a little more detail. Here's our agenda today. We're going to talk about smart home because we hear that term a lot, right? Maybe clients are asking for it. And importantly, why should you even care about this, right? You got a lot of things on your plate as a builder. And do I need this complication in my life, right? So a fair question. When and how to determine your client's technology needs. And I'm going to give you a cheat sheet in here. You're going to love this. It's a 1-page document. So a little spoiler alert. And I'm going to talk about the role of a technology integrator. Again, I'll define what that is, but also what to look for in partnering with the company. And I'm going to share some resources with you later at the end. And you're going to get links to these too in a follow-up email. So if you want to take some screenshots with your phone or something, or screen grabs, go for it. But this will be recorded, put on YouTube, and I'm offering up my slide deck as well to you. So if you want this, you could have this for your own records. But there's some great technology resources that you are sure to love. And then if you're on the fence, or you like what you hear today, you're like, yes, I'm going to now be proactive with technology. Talk about how to get started, right? Again, I want this to be the easy button for you, because from my outreach to the industry, I found that technology could often be a pain point for builders, and I want that to end. If you have any questions throughout on things that I'm talking about, feel free to ask something. There's a Q&A tab in Zoom here. You could ask questions there. There's also a chat, but I prefer you can put it in Q&A because I have the Q&A window up on my screen and I can monitor it that way. So, and we'll leave some room at the end as well for some questions and answers. So let's jump into the meat of it. Why? Why should you care, right? That's the number one question. Can I just ignore this? Or do I really need to get involved with this technology discussion at all? Well, here's why. All of us, just forget our client for a second, just think about you and I. We're all reliant on technology more in our daily lives than ever before. And COVID made this really painfully obvious, right? We're working from home. All of a sudden, we found out maybe our Wi-Fi stinks, our network wasn't working well. The kids are learning, you're doing Zoom meetings and the internet's breaking up or buffering. We were trapped in our home. We wanted more entertainment. Home theaters, media rooms got popular, really popular. And we all want to feel safe and secure in our home. Well, these are technology systems. And if we're using these in our systems, like Jennifer's question, what she asked, what are the things you like? And I see two of them. Ring, that's security, and then Sonos for music, that's entertainment, right? I have a Sonos, I love it myself. And these are things that we use every day. Your clients want them. So it's not a matter anymore of if a client's going to have technology, it's just a matter of how much. Even if they just want internet and a couple TVs, there's some wiring infrastructure needed to do it right. So have a pro you could rely on and lean on for advice when these come up in your projects. The other thing which we'll get into is convenience. So safety and entertainment, that's easy to understand, right? But convenience is now that's where the smart home comes in. Smart home can mean different things, but what I'm referring to here is remote control of our homes through things like our smartphones or tablets, even our voice, and where you can say something or use an app and have multiple things happen at the same time even. So you could have a button that says good night, and good night turns on the alarm, shuts off the lights, sets the thermostats back on the HVAC. It could do other stuff too. Make sure all the music systems and TVs are off. Conversely, in the morning, you could have a button that says good morning and the lights light up to the kitchen. The bathroom lights might turn on. Your favorite TV station might be playing in the kitchen. The lights go into a nice warm white, soft setting because it's morning. You don't want that bright bluish white light. All that could happen from your voice or from a button press. So convenience is really neat. That's what my second favorite thing would going to be if Jennifer asked what's my second thing is the whole convenience aspect of what a smart home can do. The promise of it's pretty neat. So your clients are going to want this technology, some of it, maybe not all, but they're going to want some of it. So as we get into this today, the point is get in front of this conversation and don't be reactive to it, be proactive to it, because as we'll see, there's a lot of benefits for you for doing so, and of course your clients. So what happens when builders don't talk about technology? It's brought up late. And I could tell you from being on the receiving end of this, I've been on many custom home projects in my career where the electrician's done, they're getting ready to put the drywall on, and all of a sudden now they're talking about the technology systems. And now it's a fire drill figuring out, okay, wow, this should have happened a year ago. What does the client want? And there's back and forth with proposals and what change orders do we now need because the electrical's not here, or we need to cool this closet where the technology is going to be, or we got to reframe some members here because there's a lift, or add some blocking here for the big TV that's going to go on the wall. So all these things that cause change orders, project delays, aesthetic compromises, performance compromises happen. And I've been on many of these projects, and some of these change orders are ghastly expensive, and the client's not happy. It's like they find why is this conversation being brought up now? And that's a fair question that they could ask. But you could be proactive on there and eliminate a ton of those problems. So what technology specifically? So I'm going to go on a few of the popular ones here. And again, I'm going to share a cheat sheet later on, so you don't have to write all this down. You're going to have a one-page cheat sheet that gets into this and more, but I'll go over some of the top ones. We already talked about smart home.
Sorry, Josh, sorry to interrupt. Do you want me to launch the poll? I don't.
Oh, thank you for bringing that up. Thank you. That was great. Yes, I have a poll question, and Jennifer, thanks for reminding me on that. I want to take your temperature of the people on, you on there on what your technology experience is right now. So if you could launch that, that'd be great. And just love to get your experience with technology now. So we could launch that poll, and it's a multiple select question, and we'll take that there. And as you're filling that out, I like this. Yeah, I'm sure that's never happened, right? Change orders, never. Yeah, they happen. Okay, so there's that poll question. I can't see it on my screen, probably because I'm doing a screen share, but if that's up, and I'll get into that. Oh, there we go. Okay, great. So we got that question up. And thank you very much for those of you that have answered that. Appreciate it. So what technologies? We talked about smart home a little bit and home automation. Home automation, that's the term they used to hear more in the past. And smart home and home automation are often used interchangeably. But that's referring to, again, control of the home remotely, easy control of the home. And home automation, to get a little more granular on that, is when things automate based on a button press, like I was saying, good night or good morning, or a time of day, or when certain conditions are met. It could even be when you pull into your house and certain things happen automatically, or when you leave your house, certain things happen automatically, like arm the house. So that's kind of automating things so you don't have to think about it, and your client doesn't have to think about it. Smart lighting. This is big. We've all seen the transition to LED, and this not only is energy efficient, but now thanks to color changing LED, color change to make your house turn blue or red or green or something. That's kind of fun and cute if you want to have a party. But the more useful part of that is what they call circadian rhythm lighting, if you've heard of that, or another term is human-centric lighting. And that refers to the fact that we go outdoors and we don't consciously think about this, but the color of sunlight changes throughout the day based on where the sun is and how much of the atmosphere it has to go through and how much white light is refracted off and such. That, but we all know what the golden hour is, right? When the best time for photography, when the light has that more sunset kind of amberish orange hue to it. Well, you can recreate that now through the lighting in your home. You have to have smart fixtures that do that, but this is a thing. And with the whole wellness movement, it'd be interesting, maybe, not a question, but not a poll question, but maybe some clients might be asking about some wellness solutions for their home. And this is kind of part of that conversation about mimicking outdoor nature and bringing that into your home. And the science, some of it suggests that we sleep better at night when we mimic what the sun is actually doing outside, and we're more alert during work hours because we're seeing the bright sunlight as it is in the middle of the day, which is what we're all, used to be outdoors a lot. Now we're indoors a lot in offices and our homes. So a very big topic. And the other thing about lighting is it's universally known to be ugly when you go into a house and you got just banks and banks of light switches or dimmers all stacked up. It's not easy and intuitive to use. But with a lighting control system, you can have a single gang keypad with presets on there, and that can control a very sophisticated lighting system and just recall scenes like all on or task lighting or evening, entertain, whatever the client wants. And it brings lighting to the perfect preset. Much better aesthetics, much better user experience. Motorized shades and drapery, that's easy. All right, that's everybody knows what that is, but that's a popular option too. And that can be used as part of energy management. Block out the baking sun coming into the house when the sun's going through the windows in the middle of summer, but maybe reverse that in the winter. Take advantage of some free solar heating from the sun coming in the winter. So all sorts of things that could be done with motorized shade and drapery. Energy management, this is becoming a big thing, and the technology integrators, the low voltage people, are getting involved in this, interestingly enough. It's kind of an amalgam of electrical and low voltage. But energy management, we know a lot of homes are going to solar, but what happens when the power goes out, as you might know, is unless you have a battery backup, the solar is not doing anything for you in a power outage. So there are there's things called microgrids and smart energy management systems now, where the breakers, even in the breaker panels, the standard breaker panels you're already putting in, but the actual breakers themselves are smart breakers that could do load shedding, could monitor energy, and depending on how much battery power is left in the battery packs versus how much solar is coming in or how much generator power you've got, you can even manage the energy in a house. It's a pretty big topic to talk about on its own, but to know that exists is a really neat thing to know. And this is the neat thing I want you to take away today. You don't have to know the granularity of any of these topics with your client, because your technology integrators, your wingman, your wing lady, if you will, that's going to help you. But to know that these things exist is really neat, and your clients might be asking you about it now. So yeah, energy management's a big thing because you might remember going back a couple of years ago in Houston, people died when the power went out. It was a really cold snap and it was below freezing and people died of carbon monoxide poisoning because they were turning on generators or their gas ranges to heat up out of desperation. So people died when the power was out, and that a lot of clients want to have more energy security. And you've probably heard too, we kind of have a weird thing going on in the country where there's a big push towards electrification, which is great for the environment in one sense. But then if everybody got electric cars and put electric ranges in, the grid would just shut down. There's going to be too much of a draw on the energy. So there has to be a infrastructure upgrade on the grid right now to support all the electrification the government really wants to push. So because of that insecurity, some clients are like, you know what, just give me a battery backup or a big generator and some energy management so I don't have to worry about what happens if the power goes out. Talked about wellness a little bit here. That is a trend that some clients might be really in tune to. Clean water, clean air, the lighting we talked about, but also what I didn't put on the slide, that gets into acoustics. We all hate being in a very echoey room, and think of the restaurants you go to where you have to kind of shout at your friends because there's so much ambient noise because it's an echo chamber in there. Well, a lot of homes, modern homes these days are full of hard surfaces, and it can be really hard to communicate because of all the echo. And the home technology integrators often have some acoustic solutions for you too. And some of it looks amazing. It's not an eyesore, but all sorts of like architectural looking acoustic treatments that could be put in a home that tame that echo, but actually beautify a home too. Probably didn't know integrators do all these things. And other thing, this is like the fourth utility of the home, internet and your Wi-Fi, right? We all saw that through COVID, and we got really reliant on having a solid network that's not just fast, but also reliable and secure from cybersecurity issues. Going back into security, alarm, surveillance cameras, the Ring doorbell, right? A lot of us have those. But think about your clients too. If it's a luxury home, might have a pedestrian gate or a car gate. How does the client get in? Do they put those little plastic intercom boxes on there, or are there better looking ones that fit the decor of the home that aesthetically look better? Yes, there are, and integrators can help you with that. And of course, everyone likes to watch TV, or most people do, or watch movies. And so home theater and media rooms, that's kind of the bread and butter of the home technology industry. And music everywhere. Someone mentioned Sonos. We all love to listen to music, right? And it's kind of table stakes now that a home's going to have speakers throughout it, and often into the backyard and landscaping areas too. And the speakers these days can be hidden in the landscaping in such a way you'll never know they're there. So these are things that are popular. Is this everything? No, I'm kind of hitting the high points. But this project technology assessment form that I'm talking about later, it's the little cheat sheet we're going to give you is a checklist of this and more. So wait for that. So here's the big question. We talked about these different technologies, but when do you, as a builder or remodeler, bring this topic up to your client? Anybody have a guess? Here's the answer. And it might sound controversial. Before you get framing, electrical, and HVAC proposals. Now that might be a new thought. You might be thinking, why? That doesn't sound right. You come in, a low voltage guy comes in later in the project, just before drywall goes in. Why do they need to be consulted so early if they're one of the last trades before drywall? Well, the next few slides is going to back this phrase up and explain what's in it for you and your clients. Really, we're all working for the client, right? What's in it for you if you do this, if you get in front of this conversation of technology. So there's a lot of words on these things, but again, I'm going to kind of hit the highlights here. Here are some of the things that you will learn about when the integrator is brought into the project early. So they have a set of the plans, they talk to the client and find out what technologies they're interested in, and then this information comes back to you. So what wiring needs to be run? Sometimes, and here's the thing I want to address. There's a mistaken assumption out there that because Wi-Fi has gotten so good that we don't need to run wires. Nothing further from the truth. Even if the client's not going to put in a good stereo or a good audio system or a bunch of TVs everywhere, if you look up networking equipment, even the mesh networks, I don't want to get technical today, but we might have heard of a mesh network. You could buy those even at the big box stores, where you have one main router and you put these other ones around the house. They're kind of like repeaters. They still work better wired. So that's the crutch, that only one of them needs to be wired. But to do it right and to have the speed and better security, you're actually wiring all those things around. So how many of those need to go in a home? It depends on the size of the home and the construction of the home. These are things your integrator knows, and they'll get the right wiring put in place. And especially with high definition video today and video gaming systems, which need high speed, you need the performance of wires in a lot of key locations. So again, we don't have to get granular on exactly what wires, where they go. Your integrator can help decide what wires go where. Here's another big one. And ideally, this is something the architect would have figured out ahead of time before it gets to you. But if it's a remodel project or it's new construction, the architect kind of forgot about space planning for technology, this might become a problem for you. Where's the stuff going to go? If there's going to be a rack of equipment, where does it need to be? Well, the integrator could help early to determine where that should go, and so it's not a last minute issue. And how this kind of comes into why, well, I'll come back and tie that all in, but we want to make sure that space is conditioned, it's not overheating. If it's in a small closet, electronics put out heat, and you open the closet door and it's like 120-degree heat blasts you out. That's not good. The electronics are not going to live long. So the framing requirements here. So I kind of hinted at a little earlier that depending on the TVs put on the wall, you might have some blocking for the mount to fit up there, so you have flexibility in where that TV goes. And here's a big one. These days, you might have noticed this. If not, here's something really cool to know. A lot of the lighting fixtures these days are quite small. 6-inch round cans are not the most popular today. They're getting into smaller aperture lights, and sometimes square, sometimes flangeless lighting cans. And they have speakers now, flush mount speakers that match all of this. And even invisible speakers that literally get mudded over and fit flush with the drywall surface. You wouldn't know they're there. All sorts of cool things. But where are those going to go? And if we know this ahead of time, then that element gets put on the plans, and now your framer is framing around that, as opposed to what often happens is like, oh, you're going to have to move that framing member, because the speaker is going to go right there. Change order, project delay. Or if the client doesn't want to pay the change order and a project delay, they put a speaker up in a place that just doesn't look right. It doesn't line up with the lighting or anything else in the ceiling. It looks like an afterthought. So that's ugly, right? So that can be fixed aesthetically and match up with the light fixtures when this is figured out early. Pretty neat. I already alluded to cooling requirements. If the equipment's going to be stuck in a closet somewhere, let's get ahead of that. So the HVAC person could specify some kind of heat extraction fans, or if it's a mechanical room and it's a big enough system, maybe even a mini split if it gets too hot. So at least we'll just get in front of that. Electrical requirements. Electronics need to be powered by something. So how many circuits? Do they need to be grounded differently? Do they need to be dedicated 20 amp circuits? What type of lighting systems going in here? Are there going to be motorized shades? We need power there. Is there going to be energy management, backup power? These are all questions the integrator is going to proactively handle and then come back to you or create specifications. So now the electrician knows what he's dealing with and they don't have to worry about change orders again and project delays because it's part of the plan from the get-go. And conduit, this is easy, but let's plan it before the slab's poured, right? If there's going to be outbuildings or extensive entertainment systems in the landscaping, it's just good to put some conduits and some sleeves in and ahead of time, and something again your integrator is going to give you some great feedback on. So it's like, oops, we forgot about that. Now it's got to jackhammer out something, or maybe have the conduit come out at a very visible location as an afterthought. And going back to the Wi-Fi, I already touched on this. How many access points do they need? Can they be hidden? And what about outdoor Wi-Fi? That has become popular. You know, they want solid Wi-Fi out by the pool or the barbecue area. There's outdoor access points that are weatherproof. So that's something your client might want. We'll just plan for it. Again, it's a conduit. But these are all little things that could be done early on in the project, expensive to do after the fact. If there are any questions that are coming up, what I've talked about so far, feel free to ask me in the Q&A. And if not, we'll deal with that at the end. Home theater media rooms, we talked about this, but this is a specialized room, especially if they want a dedicated space like you see in this photograph. There's seat risers and HVAC requirements. Do they want acoustic treatments? There's a lot of questions that need to be answered. Something your integrator is a qualified one is equipped to answer and help deal with early on. So to give you an example, a real world thing that happened on a project I was in, this is in the 2000 aughts, and this is a very big luxury home that was being built in Los Angeles, and we get brought in literally as they're just finishing up framing of the top floor of this home, but it had a huge basement. It was a massive house, and they had a big theater in the basement that the architect drew out willy-nilly. It didn't consult any integrator. And once we got involved and found out, and this is the photo of it actually, that's a 16-foot wide screen. It's a huge house, but there are seat risers, and the height of the room was not tall enough to handle the sight lines of the projector. People's heads were in the way. So they had to spend $150,000 on the change order to core out the concrete and re-pour a part of the basement. Oops, right? So now the architect should have caught that early on, so shame on them. But if the builder had brought us in earlier, this could have been caught before the foundation was even poured. So that's an extreme case, but just to show you real world things that happen, and that's just on the job that I was in. I talked about the benefits earlier of lighting controls, taking all those multiple gangs of switches and dimmers down to something really small, and a single gang or maybe a double gang. So where do those keypads go? And can I consolidate controls in there? If there's going to be motorized shades or skylights, do you have to have multiple disparate stuff on the wall? No, you could consolidate it into one keypad. So these are things your integrator could help with to eliminate that wall acme, to minimize the stuff on the wall. And then I alluded to this earlier, access control. We've all seen the kind of plastic ugly things in the past that were intercoms. If there's going to be gates or exterior gates, or if they want intercom in the house, there's actually beautiful ones now that look nice. So how we got to get the wiring in for that, and we want to get your input and the client's input on what it looks like, so it looks up to snuff. It fits the beauty of the home. Alarm systems, same thing with cameras. Where do they go? Can they be hidden? Where should the alarms keypads be? Security monitors. We talked about music a little bit, but how many rooms are going to have it? What kind of speakers are going to go there? Do they want speakers hidden in the landscape so you can't see them, but you can hear them? All these are questions your integrators got your back on. They're going to help figure out what the client wants, come back to you with it all figured out in the plan. And this is a big one to get into smart home control. Again, we're going to talk about a slide a little later on, but there's a lot of brands out there, right? Even Amazon Alexas and the Hey Google things. how to turn mine on, are popular features today, and that's even a basic home control system. Actually, mine is turned on. I'm going to shut it off. It woke up when I said that. So we make sure that all these different products, the client wants this. Yeah, I want to be able to voice control my alarm and my climate and my music and all these different systems. Are they compatible? So that's something that integrators are really good at, because certain brands talk to other brands and but if the right product mix is not selected, maybe they won't. And the client only finds out later that, oh, darn, that doesn't work with the voice control. I got to bring up an app now. And, it gets confusing to them, right? So we're trying to decomplicate their life, not complicate it. So this is, again, where your integrator can help the client select the right products that fit their needs and their use cases, and to make the home as easy to control as possible for convenience and safety. So there's an overview of the different technology systems out there. Now the question becomes, who should put this stuff in, right? So here is, I've used the term technology integrator many times, and now we're going to talk about that, because you might not use that terminology. It's kind of a new term. This industry's had a long debate of what do we call ourselves, and you might know them as the low voltage or the AV guys, but AV guys is no longer an appropriate term. First of all, there's quite a few women integration company owners, and I know quite a few myself. But beyond that, they're not just AV. As you saw, AV is a slice of the pie of what they're doing now. Energy management, lighting, shading, security, access control, networks. That's outside of the purview of AV. So technology integrator makes sense, because if you think about it, they're integrating all these different technologies cohesively so it all works well and it's easy to use. It's important to note that this is a trade in its own. It is a dedicated specialist, just like electrician or a plumber or a drywall person. That's what they do. It's not an add-on to some other business model. That's what the true technology integrator is. And the good ones, it's a sophisticated job, because they have to be able to communicate well with others. They have to communicate well with you to meet your scheduling needs, communicate through plans. They need to be able to communicate to HVAC trades, framing electricians, to convey the project's technology needs in a meaningful way. So they're kind of like an orchestra conductor, if you will, of all the technology, and kind of one point of contact for the technology, and will integrate with the rest of your team. But is that the only place you can get technology installed? Well, here's some other options, but here's some warnings there. I put you on there, and because I've been at the last 2 international builder shows, the big show of the NAHB, and I was a little kind of freaked out to see some of these more DIY centric brands trying to tell the builder, like, hey, this is so easy now, you can do this. You don't need an integrator, that you can do this. And this product's much cheaper and it does the same stuff. Well, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. So before you embark, if this is even a thought, before you embark on becoming the tech installer yourself, you're going to want to do a lot of background research on the products that you do. And I don't recommend it, because it's a full-time job for an integrator to be up on how to install this, how to program this, and to know what products really are compatible versus what the brochure says, because the brochure is almost never 100% right. There's gotchas that you don't want to be left holding the bag for, that an integrator knows, because they're often testing this stuff in their own environment. I do that. I'm not an installer anymore, but I play with this as a hobbyist, and I see the promise of what the brochure says and then what reality is, and I'm like, ooh, I don't like this, and I'm a tech person. The client's going to be really frustrated with this. So be careful. I know the audience that we're talking to today is a lot of custom home builders and remodelers, and that's great. So alarm companies, like ADT, there's others out there. They offer some pretty light basic systems in there, but they're alarm companies at heart that are trying to get some add-on, jump into the smart home space. So I would say okay in production homes, but on a custom home, the systems that the alarm companies typically put in are very limited in scope. They don't talk well with a lot of other brands, and they're typically not talking to the best in class brands of lighting and shading and such. So you're really limited, be careful. Electricians too. So there's, my only warning on this is this: if an electrician is primarily an electrician and they're like, oh, I'll put some background audio in there, I'll put in a couple of Ring doorbells for you. If it's something really basic and light, maybe. But what we see as a warning is sometimes it's just like a little add-on sale to them, but they're not really low voltage specialists. But I say typically because some electricians have a separate low voltage division where it's run by a separate crew, and those folks are low voltage specialists, that's fine. But if someone that dabbles in it, they're not going to be up to snuff. They're not going to be up on the know on all the different product choices out there. And when they don't know what they don't know, they're often putting in inferior solutions that aren't the right solution for your client. So I see that as a problem, and I've experienced it doing takeover projects in the past. Again, because the audience we're talking to here are custom home builders. Geek Squad, some of these Amazon tech is probably not where you want to go, because again, more of a DIY kind of a do-it-for-me model. It's basic, simple components that might meet the needs of the client, but maybe not. So that's why it's important to have a technology integrator, the one that knows all of this stuff, to have them be the first point of contact for your client. The client can't afford it or whatever, fine, but at least they know their options and know that, oh, my budget's only this, I'm going to get this, and this is the limitations of it. At least they know, and there's no surprises later on. In this photograph here, this is the worst, one of the worst. This is actually a true picture of taken on the 405 freeway here in Los Angeles, where it's a handyman. These folks maybe can hang a TV on a wall, but it says audio video installation, handyman work, window washing. That wasn't photoshopped. The only thing we photoshopped over is the phone number. But this is not the type of person you want being your client's technology resource. And most builders aren't going to do that, but I've seen some quite luxury homes with someone of this caliber that shouldn't have been allowed on the job. They didn't know what they didn't know about the products that should have been on that house. So your technology integrator, I'm just trying to back that point up, is your point of contact that you want for your project. So this is something that our association helped create. This is some of the bullet points of what it takes to become a HTA certified firm, but you can use this yourself. You might be in a market that doesn't have any integrator certified by our association, but a lot of this is common sense if you read it. And if you read that all, just make sure the company's been around for at least 3 years. Are they licensed? Only 21 of the 50 states have a low voltage license requirement, but shockingly, a lot of the companies in those states that do require a license don't have them. So it's a very low barrier to entry industry. Home tech is weird because it's not like plumbing or electrical where you have this kind of this career path that it takes you a while to master it. Anybody could start a business and say they're a technology integrator, and you don't need the schooling or don't have the schooling to back it up. So these are the things that we require of a firm at minimum before they can even apply to be certified. And it's just sharing that onto you so you can do your own checks. If a company comes to you and says we're the best ever, do this type of stuff, right? Do this background checks. Now I want to give you some resources that could help you in your day-to-day career, building and remodeling homes. That will help you. So I just referred to the technology integrators and finding integrators, the good ones. That last slide had some of those checks and balances. There's more to it than that. That was just a high level. The folks that meet that standard get this badge here up in the upper right, says HTA certified. If you see that, you're talking to a company that met that minimum standard. And here's the thing, we only estimate 10% of companies out there meet it. So like I said, it's a low barrier to entry field. When you have a low barrier to entry field, you happen to get a lot of hobbyists and not so professional builders, integrators, to put it lightly. So that's why our association exists. If integrators are just great, then there would be no need for the Home Technology Association because everybody would be great. But because such a small percentage are really good and worth your time, someone had to come out and create a standard and hold them to that, and that's us. Something also interesting to know about, and this is maybe somewhat unique in the building industry, maybe not, but just because a company maybe works in a smaller scale project, they're dealing with smaller homes, simpler needs, and they do a really great job of designing and installing technology in a small home. That doesn't necessarily scale to a really, really large home, 10, 15, 20,000 square foot and bigger. It's a different skill set, different project management skills, typically different product choices going in, more complicated products to configure, not to use, easy to use, but more complicated to configure. And you need to use an integrator that is experienced at that level. So that's what the second bullet point is. And I'll share my screen for a minute on our website so you see what I'm talking about. This is the website for the Home Technology Association. And here's this tile here at the lower left says HTA certification defined. You can see there's those bullet points from earlier, but here's the 3 different tiers of certification. There is foundation, luxury, and estate. I won't get into all that, but it just basically means that kind of, nice size home, kind of getting into the bigger luxury homes, and then the cost no object, huge estate. And we classify our dealers into one of these 3 buckets based on their skill sets and all the vetting that we do on a company. So it's good for you to know that. We also have a dealer finder. So if I come back to the home screen and I want to find someone I'm just going to put in a Beverly Hills, everybody knows this zip code from the TV show, do a search, and then I could find dealers near pretty close to where I live. I'm pretty close to Beverly Hills, where I can just put in Nashville, Tennessee. And there we go. We find dealers near them. If you click into any of these profiles, you'll find out more about that company. These are at the luxury tier. These are the type of homes they work in, the size projects they work. You can do a lot of granularity on doing a research on a company, and then of course reach out to them here on the side. So this is a good resource, great resource for you to know. And I'm going to come back to sharing my slide for a second because I have something else to share with you. Is a point that something that I was telling you earlier, our association is about is educating builders a bit about art and trade, but we're also, I told you, we listen to you and listen to the pain points that builders have had dealing with this industry. And we built a code of conduct around integrators that promise to live by it's basically your dream list. They're going to respect you. They're going to collaborate with you. They're going to create design drawings. They collaborate, play well with others, and return phone calls within a certain time period. Basically, it's a code of conduct of professionalism. And we came out with this earlier this year after hearing input from builders and designers, and we built that into a code of conduct, and we made it so our dealers could opt into that code of conduct. And if they do, they get to wear this extra badge called HTA Design Partner, meaning they're a design partner to you. Anything technology design, they are a partner to you. So that is a level of professionalism that's top of the top of the top. So if you want to find someone that's basically promising to behave by this strict code of conduct, these folks are top notch. Something good and interesting to know about integrators too, and this is something that is another unique thing about this trade that's really important for you to know. We talked about the consulting and design part they do, and maybe that was new to you. Like, I didn't know integrators can do that. Well, the good ones do. So that's their first phase. The second phase is installing the products. The third, this is the interesting part, they're really a service company too. So it's an important decision to make because the best ones, the best companies have a service department, a service plan, and they promise to take care of those clients from here on out, as long as they live in that home. They're there to handle any troubleshooting issues. And let's be real, technology goes old and stale in time. And the TV technologies might move on and it's time for a refresh. The integrator's there to keep the house up to the modern standards, just like clients will often refresh the interior design of their home. So it's not a one and done type of transaction like a drywall company or framer. They're in, they're out, that's it. This is different. They're ongoing. So it's good to know that. And why I want you to know that is because one of the complaints that many builders have is, well, yeah, the company did a good job of installing the technology, but when the client calls because something's wrong, their customer service is terrible and it takes them a couple of weeks to show up. That's not good. So it's good to know that these type of folks out there. There's a whole page on our website, I won't get into it now, but there's 11 different things that these integrators promise to live by in that code of conduct, this HT design partner. Another resource now, here's that one-page cheat sheet I was alluding to earlier, the project technology assessment form. I could share, you can see a screen grab of it here, but if I go back to the website, you'll see a bigger picture of it. And this is a really neat page to have because it is a PDF that you could print out or have it on your tablet. And here's how easy it is to meet your client's tech needs. You hand it to them and you can just say, as your builder, as your remodeler, I will have to accommodate the technology or plan for the technology in the home. Here's a list of options out there. Hand it to them and say, you may be interested in some of this or none of it, but I need to know. So please check these boxes off and hand it back to me, or just do it with them right there in real time. And you don't have to be an expert in any of this. You're taking their temperature. Then you hand this to your integrator and then they could go to work and start working on that design and help with the budgeting and such. So this is a really, really great resource to know about. And that's on our website. You're going to get a link to this in a follow-up email, and eventually it's going to be on the Buildxact website too. And another really neat resource, especially if you want to have budgeting numbers, is we built a budget calculator on our site. I won't go back to our homepage, but it's right on the homepage. It says build a budget. And this is a high level, only 17 questions. It's a broad tool, but it will give the client a realistic installed cost budget. And it's a great tool. It's accurate for, if I had to compare this to a car, let's say entry-level luxury cars on up to top of the line cars. It's not going to do Toyota Corollas and entry-level cars, meaning there are budgets that are going to go below our budget calculator. If you're mixing in some DIY product in there, that can happen. So if your client freaks out or you freak out when you're using the tool, like, oh my God, the client can't afford that, no, it could come down a little bit that, but not typically drastically less than what this calculator can calculate. So neat tool to have. But I want to talk real quickly about professional versus DIY products. So kind of two different levels of product out there. The integrators that I've been talking about are usually putting in professional grade products that have to be installed and sold through an actual professional with training and certifications. This is the stuff that's more secure, more reliable, works well with other brands, and you can run everything off of one app instead of having a separate app for your climate, a separate app for your motorized shades, separate app for your music, where app. Some clients are fine with that. Some don't like that. They want everything from one app. Who's right, who's wrong, doesn't matter. It's up to the client. But If the client wants a one app to rule them all, you've got to go with the professionally installed systems. DIY products, some of them might meet the client's needs, some not. And they generally are less reliable. They're typically not for larger homes. And they typically play with a very small ecosystem of other DIY centric products. So if you want best in class lighting, best in class this and that, no, the DIY stuff's not going to talk to those products. So do you have to know all this again? Nope. The easy button, lean on your integrator. They're your technology Sherpa. They answer all these questions for you. So what's the next steps for you? So that technology assessment form, huge. That one form there, you've kind of done your due diligence. You brought this up to your client early, and for all the benefits we talked about. The other important thing I keep emphasizing, find a great technology integrator. And I can help you find them if you want. You can reach out to me. And we talked about do this before you get those other bids. And but that technology calculator I showed you is optional because maybe you want your integrator to handle it. They'll do it for you. But if you want to be hands-on with it, now you've got a tool. This is another tool that Buildxact may be building into their website in the future, but you're going to get a link to it in the follow-up email. So you'll have a link right to that calculator. And this is an optional thing. This is a new thing that we just kicked off this year called HTA Technology Partner. And here's what that is. I showed you that logo earlier for the HTA Design Partner. That's the promise of the integrator working with you. Like, this is the level of professionalism I bring to you. This is how I promise to work. But what about today? Like, I hope learning about this today, you realize, wow, I get it. I understand how important it is to address my client's needs. It serves my project better, serves my client better. Yeah, I get this. Well, that's all you need to get. If you get that and you agree in principle here and in practice that you're going to now bring up technology early to your products, we came up with a little designation for you called HTA Technology Partner. And it has a logo that by design matches the one above, because it's basically building a great relationship between you and integrators. When you both know how to work with each other, wow, it's going to be a great relationship. So there's a couple things that doesn't cost anything, it's free. We give this logo to you, and we built a page on our site, which I could show you just real quickly, that is designed to have a client. This is the page that logo would link to. There it is again. And if you read this through a client's mindset and you are a builder that is an HTA technology partner, this page is telling them that you get it, that you understand the role of technology in the way that client lives, and that you're going to just get in front of that conversation, be proactive and not reactive. That's all it's basically really saying. And you can opt in at this page, but that will be in the follow-up email. There's an opt-in button here to do that. We give you a logo, it doesn't cost you anything. So that is something that I want you to be aware of, because that could maybe help close business for you. And then soon we're doing a refresh on our website that builders, you can have a free listing on our site if you so choose to. And we want to highlight those builders and remodelers that are tech proactive. Doesn't cost anything, but that's something that is available to you. So as a review, the results of being proactive: massive reduction in change orders, project delays. Big thing there. It looks better, technology that's blended into the home. And when you have clients that are happy with their technology, and that's often the thing they'll show off in their home, they're going to thank you for looking out for their needs. And you can make money at this. You're a general contractor, you're typically marking up the subcontractor's bids a certain percentage. It's up to, I see builders, some of them that want to take the technology and put it under their purview. Some of them just have the client deal with the integrator directly. Up to you, but just to let you know, that's a way to make money off of this trade, because it's going to take some project management for you, right, to work with the trade. So there you go. So here's how to stay in connection with me. This QR code, if you take a picture of it or scan it, there's a little contact form that pops up on your screen that you can send a message. You could opt in if you want to know more about that technology form, or we're not ready to take free listings on our site yet, but we will soon. If you're interested in any of that, you can fill this form out. And my contact information will also come through a follow-up email from Buildxact. But I'm here to help out personally. There's my personal contact information if you want to reach out to me in an email or a phone call, and I could help you find somebody. And maybe it's in an area that we don't have an integrator yet, I'll make the offer to go on the hunt for one, do some background research to find an integrator that's reputable in that area, because I have my resources for that. And we hit our time here, so I have one more poll question for those that are still on here, if we could launch that.
Yeah, fabulous content. This was so good. Okay, so launching the poll question. Thank you, Josh.
Thank you. Thanks. This is a multiple choice question too, so I'd just love to get your feedback after attending this today. And thank you for your attention and your time. And I'm here to help out, and I hope you got some great benefit from this today. And if there's any questions, I'm willing to stay on if we have time. Ask away. Maybe we answered them all, but here if you want to have any questions answered.
Well, there we go. I'm getting some responses in. Oh, we're kind of all over the map. So your presentation had a different impact on a lot of different people.
Yeah.
That's good.
All right. Is that coming through the chat or a Q&A?
Oh, you can't see it? I'm sorry. Here
No.
I am just watching it myself. There we go. I'm going to let people just respond a little bit longer, because it sounds like if in order to share it, I have to end the poll. So let me give it just another.
Okay. All right, sure.
All right. Probably have everybody's votes in now. So I'm going to end the poll and share the results. There we go.
All right, great. And thank you for sharing that. And so questions, let's see here. I'm not seeing the questions for some reason. Maybe if there's any questions you want to ask them, and I'll answer them.
Yeah, I don't see any questions in the chat or
Q&A.
Yep.
We got them.
Yeah, really good, Josh. Great content. I think it's just such an overwhelming topic. You and I were talking about that beforehand. It is just something that people are a little bit daunted by right now. And I think one of the things that I was kind of wondering about is how relationships with architects or designers or subcontractors, and how do you know that when you're selecting one of the integrators?
So I understand that a little better. When it comes to designers and architects.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking, like, if you're an integrator, you may have insights into how the design is being laid out, right?
Yes.
So when I'm a builder and choosing an integrator, how do I know that they would work with my architect, or like how does all that ecosystem work?
That's a great question, and here's an answer. So it's really a three-pronged approach. A good integrator is talking to the builders and the remodelers and the architects and designers. They're talking to all three of those trades, and ideally the message is getting to the architect early on so that they can kind of bake this into the floor plan, right? How great would it be as the builders and remodelers got a floor plan where all this technology is laid out, right? Like everything's called out. These speakers go here, blocking goes here. Everything we talked about is planned out. So that often doesn't happen though, right? How many times have you got plans like that? But that's what we're trying to do here at HTA, is get this message out far and wide to the design community as well. But to answer that question, if I go back and I'll show you something on our site that's quite telling, here's a little peek under the hood, if you will. When a company applies to become HTA certified, we ask a ton of questions about their integration firm. And one of them is, do you work with architects, designers, and builders? And they all typically say yes. Prove it. Then we ask them give us a reference of each of those trades that you say you work with, and we're going to interview one. So that's part of our vetting process. If that's the case, I'm going to bring up a company here, a couple that I know locally, because I'm in their backyard, so I know I'm going to find what I'm looking for here. I'm looking at a local company called DSI. So this is just kind of a couple things to point out. They're an estate certified firm, which means they work on the really big projects. Here's that logo. They're a design partner that I shared earlier. But if I click into their profile, we expose, and let's see exactly where we expose that. If they are vetted or they have been endorsed, the architects, here we go, endorsements. So it says they've been endorsed by architects, general contractors, interior designers. You're not going to see that on every profile because they may have not given us an interior designer or architect that have endorsed them. If they might say they work with them, but if we can't prove it, then we're not going to put that. Does that kind of answer that a little bit?
Yeah, thank you. That's huge.
Yeah, that's great. So our association is a big force for bringing the design and build trades and the integrators together. So as this evolves, as this industry evolves, we want architects and designers, builders, all of the three big trades building homes to not forget about that technology component. And I've been in projects where it's part of the early discussion, and whoa, I mean, those are the homes that win awards because it's just integrated in so well and hidden so well that you just know it's easy to tell that was part of the design of the home. Then I've been in many really high-end homes in LA that you're like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. Like why how did they get this so wrong? Because this doesn't look right. It looks like an afterthought. Oh, I got a question here. It says, if I understand correctly, as a builder, you would work with the integrator while designing the project to make sure it's in the plans like we do for HVAC, electrical, plumbing, etc. Yes. Currently working on a few projects, so we'll consult these resources. Thank you. Great. So excellent. You got the point exactly. That's great. Like you're using an MEP, and this is just like an MEP. It's one of the early consultants you bring in your project. You'll love it. Getting that involved early. Use that project technology assessment form. So we'll make sure that comes in the follow-up email, so you all get a copy of that. And if anybody wants the slide deck of this, then you can reach out to me on my personal information. I'll send you the PDF of all the slides.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Josh. And thank you everybody who joined us today. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks again. Have a great day.
Thanks. You too.